we're seeing an awful lot of activity in the transfer portal. It's that time of year. A lot of kids are starting to put their name in there and that sort of thing. Have you gotten any clarity on what your numbers are going to be allowed to be, what they're going to be? And obviously the transfer portal's been extremely good to Miami football the last couple of years. How active are you going to be able to, or are you going to try to be in the transfer portal in this cycle?
Well, Gary, that the most astonishing thing is the first part of your question is there's still no clarity in terms of will anybody be able to go above the 25 initials for a year? And it's really actually quite sad because you are seeing all around the country all these kids jumping into the portal, and in reality, there's nowhere for them to go. There's going to be more spots. There's going to be more players in the portal than spots available unless we change the way we do our scholarship accounting. When we find out what those rules are, we'll do what we do every year, which is we'll look to see if there's ways that we can improve our football team and get the right fit of the portal. You have mentioned we've had good success, but it's not just because these guys have been good players. They've also been great guys in our locker room, and they fit who we are. So you always have the opportunity to try to improve yourself if it's there. I would expect that we'll look into that, but we really like our high school class. We want to finish strong in that class. We always want to be a program that's, built with the high school talent, especially the high school talent in this area, which we're really excited about the guys we've got coming in. And, and then if you have to fill in a crack with a really talented player that's older, then that opportunity is always there.
Has the NCAA given any indication when they will tell you that? I mean, signing day is in a week and a half.
It sure is. I think in January, I think there's a vote. We've been kind of knee deep in the season, so but there's a lot. I don't know that the majority of the student athletes who play the sport are aware of where they're jumping into in the portal with what's available for them. So we'll see what happens. It'll be fascinating to watch. We're kind of all making it up as we go along. So we're living in real time history. We'll see how it goes.
Thank you.
Next up, we've got David Furones from the Sun Sentinel. David, go ahead.
Hi, Manny. And that segues nicely into my question here. Even in 2020, a year where so many abnormalities, how odd is it that you have an early signing period while you still have a game week coming up? You're getting ready for a regular season finale and a game week still, this week before you get there, just to have to juggle all those things at once and try to lock in as many signings as possible, before you really get into the ultimate deadline on signing day.
Yeah, David, it's very unusual. I mean, this would be the week, we'd be in the schools, we'd be in the living rooms of the recruits, and official visits on the weekend, and the fact that none of that's there, and you got some teams that are playing, some teams that aren't playing. I mean, you've got all these different varieties. So what I really like is that we've got a very solid class. The nucleus of guys in our class are bought in, and they want to be here together, and those type things. And of course, there's always going to be your little bit of late dramatics in recruiting. That's just normal, because everybody's messing around with everybody else's commitments. But like I said, I expect us to finish the class, and our staff's doing a great job. Our recruiting staff's doing a great job of not just preparing ourselves for Saturdays, but understanding that recruiting never stops, and you got to work on it every day.
Thank you.
Next up, we'll go to Nicole Auerbach from The Athletic. Nicole, go ahead.
Yeah, Manny, just sticking with the recruiting questions and signing day, I'm wondering, with all of these months of virtual recruiting, what it's actually been like. I mean, I'm sure there's pros about, not being on the road or stuck at an airport or whatever, ungodly hours, but also, not evaluating in person. Like, what are the pros and cons for you and your staff, just kind of now that there's been so many months of this process?
That's a fascinating question. I mean, from our standpoint, the pros and cons. Well, you could argue one pro is, I mean, you really have to trust the film. You have to trust the football performance. I mean, sometimes there are some other things that can sway your opinion one way or another. And I'm not saying that everybody is trusting the film, but you always want that to be the centerpiece of the evaluation process. I think one weird thing about this recruiting process is that you've had a chance to show consistency over time, which ultimately is what builds trust, because there's less of the example to, hey, here's a big shiny something to distract you with a weekend visit or whatever. I mean, it's more really who you are and how your relationship comes through over the phone or on a Zoom or on a FaceTime call. And again, that's where, I give the credit to our staff, our coaching staff, our recruiting staff. They just do a really good job of that because, again, you're not, facilities and stadiums and, official visit weekends. Those things are all extraordinarily important, but they're not more important than just, who you are as a person in the relationship. Maybe that's coming through more this year. That would be for somebody else to answer. But the downside, you miss being out there. You miss getting to talk to all the people. You get to miss being able to talk to all the people in the building, that may have different opinions and insight on the people that you're recruiting. You miss getting to watch a practice and seeing the things that you can't see on film. There's a lot of things you can't see even in a game when the camera shuts off between plays. Some body language, leadership type skills, all that type of stuff goes away. So there's going to be some give and take, and that's why I mentioned the question earlier. I think there'll be some volatility in this class when they get to college, but maybe maybe on the flip side, maybe people have made more decisions for the right reasons and not just something that looks good for a 48-hour weekend, but something that feels maybe more real than that. And who knows? Time will tell.
And has it been strange for you and your assistants? I mean, it's got to be like the longest that an assistant football coach has ever not been on the road like that for recruiting. Is it strange that everyone's been around so much?
It's really the tragedy is coaches all over the country, their freaking flyer miles and their hotel points are evaporating. That they don't know what they're going to do with themselves. It's super strange. It's very strange. I mean, this is when we're, whether missing the May evaluation period or being able to go for the fall evaluation, or right now the contact period in December, getting out the great relationships that our coaches have with the high school coaches, in this area and all around the country. It's very unusual. It's very bizarre, and but it's all part of the year. I think the rule is, it makes sense. I think why it's dead, just with where we're at as a country right now, unfortunately. But I think everybody in football will be very excited when when it opens back up and we have a chance to again. This is recruiting is all about relationships, and as we know, relationships in front of a screen like we're looking at right now always have a limitation.